In Ireland's early Christian period, from about the 4th to the 10th century, more than 180 individuals from the island were beatified, or in other words, made saints of the Catholic Church. This number accounts for about 16% of all saints created in the same time period all across Europe, North Africa, the Middle East, and Asia. So the question remains, how did a relatively isolated society on the fringe of Europe accomplish such a fate? Well, first we need to establish some context. Under the Emperor Constantine, Christianity transformed from a rogue underground cult to a legally recognized religion in the early 4th century. It then blossomed and flourished throughout the Roman Empire until it became the official state religion in 380 AD. During the remainder of the 4th and 5th century, Christianity continued to expand throughout Western Europe, even whilst the Western Roman Empire itself contracted, fractured, and then eventually disintegrated. A multitude of factors caused the collapse of the empire. However, the continuous influx of Germanic tribes from the east was certainly a leading cause. This westward migration of Germanic tribes also led to the fracturing and localization of Western Christianity. These Germanic tribes quickly captured and took control over vast regions of the former Western Empire, and within each of these individual regions, Christianity was affected differently. In Hispania, for example, which is modern-day Spain and Portugal, the new Germanic overlords practiced an Arian form of Christianity, whereas the subjugated locals practiced Catholicism. Therefore, a tumultuous and shaky relationship existed between the rulers and the ruled. In Britain, for instance, Christianity had been steadily expanding since Rome's earliest venture into the island. The Anglo-Saxon invasion, however, destroyed the developing church and replaced it, to a great extent, with Germanic polytheism. In addition to the fractious nature of Christianity, the Germanic invasions negatively affected educational and scholarly values throughout Europe. Many of the new Germanic rulers rebuked the idea of becoming literate altogether. It did not factor into their sense of personal governance. Whereas previously, in Roman culture, literacy had been a symbol of elite status, now it had lost its prestigious veneer and became merely a banal practicality practiced by a diminishing section of society. Reading of works other than the Bible and religious doctrine became rare, and thus the library and knowledge of great classical works from ancient Greece and Rome practically disappeared throughout Europe. In essence, scholarly activities, books, and Christianity were diminishing and disappearing in continental Europe and Britain. So as Europe and Britain entered a dark age, a remote, insulated and isolated island in the extreme west of Europe entered its golden age, Hibernia, or in modern day English, Ireland. Ireland never was part of the Roman Empire. The reason the Romans never came to Ireland, well, that may rest in the name that they attributed to the island, Hibernia, which in Latin means land of winter. Christianity, however, did reach Ireland in the 4th century. Contrary to popular belief, St. Patrick was not the first Christian missionary to arrive in Ireland. That particular delight befell Palladius, a Gaulish bishop sent to Ireland by Pope Celestine sometime before 430 AD. Little is known of what became of Palladius, however. St. Patrick, his successor, however, became known as both the Apostle of Ireland and the Enlightener of Ireland. A Romano-British missionary, Patrick is credited with converting a substantial amount of the pagan Irish society who, prior to his arrival, practiced a form of Celtic polytheism. Following Patrick's successful mission, Christianity quickly took hold and rapidly expanded throughout the island. In a short period of time, a native and local clergy was quickly established. This further entrenched Christianity's hold on the island. Along with the new religion's ideas of redemption and forgiveness, Christianity brought with it the skill of writing, which had previously not been fully developed in Ireland. There did exist a primitive form of writing called Ogham, but it was not practical. The introduction of the Latin script to Ireland was a transformational moment in Gaelic society. A small class of literate, lay and ecclesiastic people quickly established themselves in prominent positions throughout the island. Along with writing, monastic-styled Christian communities developed and spread quickly throughout the island. These monastic settlements consisted of an enclosed village where monks lived in ecclesiastical discipline and served the needs of the local population. The abbot was the leader of each individual monastery. After the abbot, the most revered position was that of scribe. The scribe was in charge of the scriptorium, where the teaching activities of the monastery were carried out, and also where the library of revered books and annals were maintained. Saint Finian of Clonard was said to be the father of monasticism in Ireland. However, there did exist a great number of isolated hermit cells around Ireland before Saint Finian. One of the most famous examples of this is in Skellig Michael, a steep rocky crag which rises out of the Atlantic Ocean about 11.5 kilometers off the coast of Kerry. Irish monasteries soon became highly regarded centres of education and scholarly study all across Europe. Beda, for example, a famous English monk and scholar, he noted how a large number of trainee English monks would attend monasteries in Ireland for both their monastic and scholastic training. Along with the recognition as centres of scholastic training, Irish monasteries became renowned for their artistic creation of manuscripts and their transmission of ancient Greek texts into Latin. The Book of Kells is one of the most famous examples of illuminated manuscripts created during Ireland's Golden Age, circa 800 AD. This masterwork of Western calligraphy contains the 4 Gospels of the New Testament, decorated with Christian iconography and insular, ornate swirling motifs. The language of the text is mainly derived from Vulgate Latin. However, it must be remembered that these monasteries were famous for the transcription of Greek works. Greek had been previously prevalent throughout the educated elite of the Roman Empire, but its use and knowledge had practically disappeared throughout continental Europe following the collapse of the empire. It remained, however, prevalent among the educated monks of Ireland, and thus, transcribing became a major part of the Irish monastic system. In fact, one of the earliest copyright infringement cases played out between 2 of Ireland's most highly regarded saints, Saint Finian, who, as previously mentioned, was considered the father of monasticism in Ireland, and Saint Columba, one of his protégés. Columba was known as one of the 12 Apostles of Ireland, a select group of 12 who actually studied under Saint Finian. Columba, well known as a prolific scribe, made a secret copy of a highly prized book which belonged to Finian. This apparent breach of copyright etiquette infuriated Finian, who appealed his case to the High King of Ireland. Columba pleaded that by copying the text, he was only spreading the word of God. The High King nevertheless ruled in favour of Finian, famously declaring, "To every cow belongs her calf, therefore to every book belongs its copy." Columba rejected the judgment and fled with the book to his royal household in Donegal for protection. Events eventually escalated into a battle, with the forces of the High King and Finian pitched on one side and the Cian O'Connell and Columba on the other. Thousands were reported to have died in the battle, and despite a threat of excommunication, Columba was actually allowed to go into exile. However, to ease his troubled conscience, Columba decided to dedicate the remainder of his life to the act of converting as many new souls as had been lost in the Battle of Cuildrovnia. Columba then famously founded a monastery on Iona, a small island in the west of Scotland. From here he is credited with converting vast numbers of the native pagan Picts of Scotland. Columba was the first missionary out of a series of missionaries called the Hiberno-Scottish Missionaries. They founded monasteries all across Britain and continental Europe, even as far south as Italy. A disciple of Columba's called St. Aidan became a renowned saint in English Christianity, since he founded the famous monastery of Lindisfarne in Northumbria about 636 AD. Lindisfarne was infamously sacked by the Vikings in 793 AD, the attack which first signalled the age of the Vikings. Another famous Hiberno-Scottish missionary was Columbanus, not to be confused with Columba. Columbanus travelled to Europe with 12 companions and famously founded monasteries in the Frankish and Lombard kingdoms of modern-day France and Italy. The modern-day Abbey of Bobbio, which lies in northern Italy, still stands on the site of the first abbey established by Columbanus in 614 AD. There are many other missionaries of Hiberno-Scottish origin who founded monasteries and converted large swaths of the European population, specifically in now what is modern-day France, Belgium, Germany, Switzerland and Austria. However, there just isn't enough time to address all of them. There are nevertheless two further notable Irish figures that require our attention: John or Johann Scotus and St. Brendan the Navigator. Famous as a theologian, poet and Neoplatonist philosopher, John Scotus was the lead scholar in the palace school of the Carolingian king Charles the Bald. He is credited with many achievements, including the translation of multiple ancient Greek texts and as the founder of scholasticism. He was also famously known for his comedic wit and his intimate standing with the Frankish king. One time, for instance, the king asked Scotus, "Quid distat inter Scotum et Scotum?" What separates a drunkard from an Irishman? Scotus laconically replied, "Tabula tantum," only a table. St. Brendan, another member of the 12 Apostles of Ireland, was referred to by many names. And these names exemplified his character, for example, the Navigator, the Voyager, the Anchorite, and the Bold. These names all relate to his legendary voyage to the Isle of the Blessed, contained in the Navigatio Sancti Brendani Abbatis, a religiously and fantastically descriptive voyage generally considered to be made up of religious allegory. Nevertheless, some people actually believe the voyage indicated Brendan in reality discovered the coast of North America. To prove that this voyage was actually possible using only the materials and building skills available to Brendan in the 6th century, Tim Severin, a British explorer, constructed a leather-skinned boat and successfully sailed from Brandon Creek, Ireland to the coast of Newfoundland, Canada. So let's recap. Why was Ireland called the Island of Saints and Scholars? Firstly, due to its position in the extreme west periphery of Europe, Ireland was saved from the tumultuous and destabilizing wave of Germanic invasions that wreaked havoc across continental Europe and Britain. The arrival of Christianity, monasticism and writing furthermore led to a golden age in Irish society, best exemplified by Irish scholastic activities and evangelical works across Britain and continental Europe. These Irish missionaries did much to reconvert the peoples of Europe, and these Irish monks in the monasteries did much to preserve and further ancient knowledge, including of ancient Greek and Roman works. The influence of these early Irish Christian monks and scholars cannot be underestimated. Well, that's the story of how Ireland became known as the Island of Saints and Scholars. I really hope you enjoyed my first video. Please hit like and subscribe, and there should be some future videos on different moments throughout Irish history.